धवती भक्ति जननी जतने पालन कोरी। कृष्ण बसते बसते बोले परमादर बोरे। गौरामा जे समस्ताने करिल भ्रमर रंगे। शेष बस्ताने हेरि बोआमी प्रणयी भकत संगे। हे मृदंग वाद्य शुनिते माना अवसर सदा जाछे। गौरवीता कीर्तन सुनी आनंद हृदय नाचे। जुगल मूर्ति देखिया मोरा परम आनंद आया। प्रसाद सेवा करिते हाया सकल प्रपंच जाया। जे दिन गृह भजन देखी गृहित गोलोक भाया। चरण सिधु देखिया गंगा सुखन सीमा पाया। तुलसी देखी जुड़ाया प्राण माधव तो शनि जाने। गौर प्रिया शाक सेवान जीवन सार्थक माने। भक्ति विनोद कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पाय जहाँ। प्रति दिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ये ताहाँ। भगत चरण रेणु भजनानुकूल भगत सेवा परम सुखी प्रेमलते करमूला जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा बनचारी हरि यमुना तीरा बनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरि जय यशोदानंदन गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन सुभद्रा जय जय गौरनिताय पतित पावन गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Srila Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोदशी श्रीमत् शिलभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की एकादशी महामहोत्सव की ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् प्रभुपाद लीलामृत की समवेत गौरभक्तवृंद की समवेत गौरभक्तवृंद की समवेत गौरभक्तवृंद की all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Varijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapesthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamimiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devai Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadamnaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Kandanamastute Taptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkrupatamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Welcome all of you. Saturday morning, Ekadashi day, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit book reading. So it's a great fortune for me to read something from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. So before I start reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, like to seek the blessing of His Grace Anandamaya Prabhu, who had witnessed the Prabhupada Leela on this earthly planet and being a part of that Leela for like, and now also being continue being part of that same Leela. So, uh, like Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitamrit is the glorification or the pastime of Lord Chaitanya. So, Prabhupada Lilamrit is the glorification and pastime of Srila Prabhupada. So, reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit is as good as reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitamrit. What benefit you will get will be same. In fact, much more, because when we read Srimad Bhagavatam or other books, so we understand like by default Krishna Supreme Personality of Godhead, that thing is going to happen. जय श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन जी की, जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की, पतित पावन गौर निताय की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Like match is fixed. Like at the end, like पता है कैसा होने वाला है करके. At the end, like demon is going to finish or like how things are going to be happen, because Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything is happening because of His will only. But in this particularly Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, we can see how Srila Prabhupada struggles so much. For what? Just we can get Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada build house, we know the first part, in which whole world can stay. But interestingly, Srila Prabhupada himself doesn't have any house. So when we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, so it brings great joy to our heart. At the same time, it gives great inspiration. So may not we can do same thing, but at least something we can contribute to his mission is still going on. So we are reading from volume 2, Planting the Seed. This particularly Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit book written by Sri Srimad Srila Satsurut Das Goswami Maharaj. I like to say his blessing also, because of his great endeavor we got this book. And we are reading this particular chapter, Beyond the Lower East Side. Prabhupada had begun Back to Godhead magazine in India. Although he had been writing articles since 1930s, it was in 1944 in Calcutta that he had single-handedly begun the magazine in response to his spiritual master request that he preach Krishna consciousness in English. It had been with great difficulty that through his pharmaceutical business he had managed to gather the 400 rupees a month. In that days it was very huge amount, 400 rupees. Uh, in 1930s, 1940s, the gold rate was something 10 rupees, 15 rupees per tola. So if we compare with the now, is I don't know how much, but beyond 50,000, that I can say surely. So if we compare, it's huge amount, like it's lakhs of rupees per month. 400 rupees a month for printing. And he had single-handedly written, edited, published, financed, and distributed each copy. In those early years, Back to Godhead had been Prabhupada's major literary work and preaching mission. He had envisioned widespread distribution of the magazine, and he had thought of uh, plans for spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world. He had drawn up a list of major countries and the number of copies of Back to Godhead he wanted to send to each. He sought donation to finances his project, but help was scarce. So he used to earn whatever Lakshmi, he used to spend in that. Like we know, Polavaja Sridhar, whatever Lakshmi he will earn, half of Lakshmi will use for the Ganga Puja. Whatever Prabhupada will earn, maximum amount he'll divert towards Back to Godhead magazine. And now if we see both the work are exactly opposite in nature. Writing, it require mind to be very calm. And distribution, raising the fund for that, it's little like one get agitated by the response what we get. So both are different in their own nature. Prabhupada has to do both the work simultaneously. Then in 1959, he had turned his energies towards writing and publishing the Srimad Bhagavatam. But now he wanted to revive Back to Godhead. And this time it will not be done single-handedly. This time he will give the responsibility to his disciple. Greg Schaff, now Gargamuni, since his recent initiation found a praise. A country club in Queens was trying to sell its small AB Dick press. Prabhupada was interested, and he rode out to Queens in a borrowed van with Gargamuni and Kirtanananda to see the machine. It was old, but in good condition. The manager of the country club wanted $250 for it. Prabhupada looked over the machine carefully and talked with the manager, telling him of his spiritual mission. The manager mentioned a second press he had on hand and explained that either, sorry, that neither machine was actually of any use to him. So Prabhupada said he will pay $250 for both the machines. The country club did not really need them. And besides, the manager should help out since Prabhupada had an important spiritual message to print for the benefit of all humanity. The man agreed. Prabhupada had Gargamuni and Kirtanananda load both machine into the van, and Iskcon had its printing press. Similarly, Prabhupada had done with the Radha London Ishwar, like took them in same way. Srila Prabhupada gave over the editorship of Back to Godhead magazine to Hayagriva and Raya Rama. For so many years, he had taken Back to Godhead and his personal sacrifice to his spiritual master. But now he would let young men like Hayagriva, the college English teacher, and Rai Ram, the professional writer, take, take up Back to Godhead magazine as their service to their spiritual master. In a short time, Hayagriva and Rai Rama had compiled the first issue and were ready to print. It was an off night, no public kirtan and lecture, and Swamiji was up in his room working on his translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Downstairs, the printing of the first issue had been going on for hours. Ram had typed the stencils, and during the printing, he had stood nervously over the machine, examining the printing quality of each page, stroking his beard, and murmuring, "Hmm." Now it was a time to collate and staple each magazine. The stencils had lasted for 100 copies, and 100 copies of each of 28 pages, and the front and back cover were now lined up along two of the unvarnished benches Raphael had made that summer. A few devotees collated and stapled the magazine in an assembly line, walking along the stack of pages, taking one page under another until they reached the end of the bench and gave the assembled stack of pages to Gargamuni, who stood brushing his long hair out of his eyes. Stapling each magazine with the stapler and the staple Brahmananda had brought from his board of education office. Even Hayagriva, who usually did not volunteer for menial duties, was there, walking down the line, collecting. Suddenly, the side of door opened, and to their surprise, they saw Swamiji looking at them. Then he opened the door wide and entered the room. He had never come down like this on and off night before. They felt an unexpected flush of emotion and love for him, and they dropped down on their knees, bowing their head on the floor. No, no, he said, raising his hand to stop them, as some were still bowing and other already rising to their feet. Continue what you are doing. When they stood up and saw him standing with them, they were not sure what to do. But obviously, he had come down to see them producing his Back to Godhead magazine. So they continued working silently and efficiently. Prabhupada walked down the row of pages, his hand and wrist extending gracefully on the fold of his shawls, and he touched the stack of pages and had finished, and then a finished magazine. Iskcon praise, he said. So Srila Prabhupada so much after the service, we can see in this particular section. For him, the mission of his spiritual master was a front. Even when they're about to bow down, it will not require because time will go. So similarly, when Srila Prabhupada came to Juhu temple, construction was going on. The khada khada, that sound was coming, chisel and breaking the stone and transferring the cement, all this thing. So devotee thought Prabhupada may get disturbed because of this sound. Prabhupada told, this is a sweet kirtan for me. One may easily get disturbed by the sound, construction sound which happen. But Prabhupada told, this is like kirtan sound for me. Jagannath had designed the cover using a pen and ink, drawing of Radha and Krishna, similar to his painting in the temple. It was simple drawing set within a pattern of concentric circle. The first page opened with the same motto Prabhupada had used for years on his back to Godhead. God is light, Niscience is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there is no Niscience. And on the same page, Hayagriva had not been able to resist giving a quotation from William Blake, approved by Swamiji, which sustained the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. But does the human form display to those who dwell in the realm of day? Although the editorial spoke of Blake, Whitman, and Jesus Christ, it stress. It is to teach this science of devotion to God that Swami Bhaktivedanta had come to America. His message is simple. The chanting of holy name of God, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, following the order of his spiritual master. His divine grace, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Swami Bhaktivedanta began the initial publication of Back to Godhead in 1944. This bi-monthly published from 1944 to 1956 in Bindaban, India, established Swami Bhaktivedanta as the leading personalist in India. The issue marked the first publication of Back to Godhead in the West. The main article, a summary of lecture given by Prabhupada, was based on notes taken by Umapati. It has been said that when we wake up and when we go to sleep, we should bear our mind, we should beat our mind 1,000 times with a shoe. When the mind says when the mind say things like, why sing Hare Krishna? Why not take LSD? We should beat it with same shoe. However, if we always think of Krishna, no beating will be necessary. The mind will be our best friend. So mind was our best friend and mind is our worst enemy. If the mind is trained and practice our Krishna consciousness, our best friend. The mind is not trained in Krishna consciousness. Mind is our worst enemy. And there was an article by Hayagriva. Flip out and stay. Hayagriva had quoted liberally from Hart Crane and Walt Whitman. No wonder so many young collegiate are trying to flip out permanently on super drugs. Perhaps this is their way of saying, we don't want any part of this hell you have made for yourself. So they use psychedelic as springboard to propel themselves into different realm. But the drugs flip is only temporary. It is temporary because it is artificial. One really begin to wonder where all these trips are leading. Hayagriva concluded that Krishna Kirtan is the quickest way to flip out without coming down. Your associate will think you mad. That is the first sign of progress. And we experience in our own life in beginning days. Just let other be mad for Maya. So other think we are mad. And you think they are mad. The old ephemeral lures of woman and gold. But you be mad instead for reality. So people are mad either for the woman and gold, and people literally become mad for that, or become mad for Krishna. But if you become mad for Krishna, that is the success of being madness. In the back of magazine was an ad for Swamiji's SS. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, and who is crazy. And the notice, soon to be printed, Gitopanishad or Bhagavad Gita as it is, translated and with commentaries by Swami Bhaktivedanta. Prabhupada's first and main instruction to his editor had been they should produce the magazine regularly, every month. So at least we can try from our side. We cannot publish, at least we can distribute as much as possible. And we see BTG magazine is the cheapest. It just costs few rupees. Unlike some other book which costs 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200, thousands rupees. BTG is the cheapest in among all the book. And anybody can connect with the BTG very quickly. Even if they did not know how to sell the copies, or even if they only turn out 2 pages, they have to continue reading the standard. He called Hayagriva to his room and presented him a complete 3-volume set of his Srimad Bhagavatam. On the front page of each volume, he had written, to Shriman Hayagriva Das Brahmachari with my blessing. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Hayagriva was grateful and mentioned that he had not been able to offer them. That's all right, Prabhupada said. He thought like, I'm not able to pay some Lakshmi. Prabhupada told, that's all right. Prabhupada said, now you compile this back to Godhead, work sincerely, and make it as big as Time magazine. Prabhupada wanted all his disciples to take part in it. Don't be dull, he said. Write something. Therefore, we see in BTG the article of devotees are included. Regularly, if you see BTG magazine, so local article, and that inspire people a lot. Like how I came in Krishna consciousness, or some based upon some current situation, or some recently happened or going to happen. So that inspire people a lot to connect. And we had seen that so many people got connected just by reading BTG regularly. He wanted to give a disciple back to Godhead for their own preaching. Brahmananda and Gargamuni, the first issues out that same night on the bicycle. Immediately. Riding to every head shop on the Lower East Side, all the way to 14th Street and as far west as the West Village until they had distributed all 100 issue. The same night got printed, compiled, stapled, went out and distributed. Srila Prabhupada ki, back to Godhead magazine distribution ki. It's really such a wonder and pleasing to hear like this. This was an increase in the preaching. Now, all his students could take part in the work, typing, editing, writing, assembling, selling. It was his preaching, of course, but he was not alone anymore. Devashila Prabhupada, BTG is the backbone. Over a short 4 months, the society has expanded sufficiently to warrant larger quarter than a small Second Avenue storefront temple, stated the editorial in the second issue of Back to Godhead. Prabhupada had not abandoned his idea for a big building in New York City. Greenwich Village real estate was too expensive and Midtown was out of the question. But Prabhupada still said he wanted to buy a building. It was difficult for his follower to think of Krishna consciousness as anything more than a Lower East Side movement, because who but the people of the Lower East Side will be interested in Krishna consciousness? And anyway, who had a money to buy a building in Manhattan? Now, Manhattan is the costliest area of the New York City. New York City is costliest worldwide, and in that, Manhattan is the costliest area. Like Hyderabad, we see some area, or Bombay, we see some area. So Manhattan is the costly, and this is a hub of Maya Devi. So when Kali attacked the hub of Krishna consciousness, when Kali Yoga began, Vrindavan, Mayapur, like Kali attacked them first. So Prabhupada also attacked the hub of Maya Devi. But one day, Ravindra Sarup had happened to meet someone, a wealthy Jewish heir, who was sympathetic towards youth movement, who agreed to loan Swamiji $5,000 with the earning of just few $100 a month. Ravindra Sarup had arranged the loan, and Swamiji had designated the money as his building fund, to which he had gradually added another $5,000 that he had collected through incidental donation. But with suitable building starting with $100,000. Even this sum, sympathy, $100,000. And how much they have? 10,000. Not even 10 parts. Some Lakshmi will go here and there. Swamiji went with Brahmananda to look at a building on 6th Street that had previously been the Jewish Providential Bank. It has a large lobby with a mezzanine, marble floor, and the atmosphere of a temple. Brahmananda suggested that the vault area will be remolded for use as a dormitory. So when they're watching, the planning was going on which area will become what. Same thing happened with the Fisher Mansion, Detroit. So when Prabhupada was watching Fisher Mansion, this could be temple, temple hall, this could be the altar, this could be the kitchen, this could be the dormitory. And building is not yet purchased also. Swamiji considered the mezzanine for his own apartment. The large lobby, he said, will be used for kirtans and lectures. On leaving the building, however, Prabhupada noted that it was located on the corner by a bus stop. It will not be a good location. The Gaudiya Mutt branch at Bag Bazaar in Calcutta, he said, was located at a bus stop. And the noisy engines of the buses as they started up created a disturbance. Prabhupada next looked at the temple Emmanuel, also on the 6th Street on the Lower East Side. It was even larger than the bank building. And when some of Swamiji's disciples walked through the cavernous, empty rooms, they became bewildered to think how, even if they could be able to get such a place, they will be able to manage or use it. He visited other places. He visited other places, once so neglected and in such a poor repair that it looked as though it had been vandalized, and another in similar condition, filled with lumber stacked almost to the ceiling. He asked Rupanuk, who had accompanied him, what he thought, and Rupanuk said, too much time and money to fix it up. So they left. Swamiji returned to his room and went into bathroom where he washed his feet in the tub. He said that it was an Indian custom that after walking outside you wash your feet. Then the devotee met Mr. Price, an elegantly dressed real estate agent. You have a handful of stars, Mr. Price told Brahmananda. You are incorporated as a tax-free religious organization. You have no idea how much money this will save. So many people have to vacate just because they cannot pay their taxes. But someone up there is looking after you people, and I have just the place for you and your Swami. Mr. Price showed Brahmananda a handsome three-story building near St. Mark's Place. It was good downtown location near the young people, yet in an area where the uptown people will feel safe. The floor were polished hardwood. All the doors were ornately hand carved, and it had a large hall suitable for a temple. The Marquis de Lafayette had stayed here during his visit in 1824, a fact that added to building's charms and prestige. One evening, Mr. Price visited Prabhupada up in his room. Prabhupada sitting on the floor behind his desk, and Mr. Price sitting on a metal folding chair. Mr. Price wore an elegant suit and white dress shirt with cuff link and starch cuffs. His expensive dress, meticulously tanned face, and blonde hair, which some devotee thought as a wig, contrasted strangely with the Swami's simplicity. Mr. Price kept referring to Swami as Your Excellency, and he expressed much appreciation of Swami's work. He spoke optimistically about how, through his connection, he hoped to save Prabhupada a lot of money and trouble and get him just a place he wanted. Accompanied by a few disciples, Prabhupada went with Mr. Price to see the building. While Mr. Price, the devotee, and the custodian of the house were all talking together in a group, Prabhupada wandered off unnoticed to a corner of room where there was an old-fashioned sewing machine. He began pressing the needle and examining the working of the machine. As Prabhupada rejoined the group, Mr. Price said, "If you can just give $5,000 down, I can get the owner to draw up the contract." $5,000 down and another 5,000 within 2 months. That should not be so difficult. Prabhupada liked the building and told Brahmananda they should purchase it. Brahmananda was inclined to turn the money over right away, but Prabhupada said that first a suitable contract has to be drawn up. Mr. Price talked to the devotee in private, speaking in Swami's interest and in the interest of spiritual movement. And he seemed to be promising them something even more than contract. Perhaps he will give them the building. It did not make sense that he will give the building, but he told them something like that. He was trying to cheat. He wanted the devotee to think of him as their friend, and he invited them over to his house one evening. When the devotee gathered in his house, sitting stiffly on chairs in his living room, which was lined up with bookcases filled not with books, but with two-dimensional design depicting rows of books, he continued to flatter them. He praised Hayagriva's writing. Hayagriva was obviously embarrassed and flattered. He praised everything about the devotees, and he spoke of how his dog has recently died and said, "His house seems empty without the little fellow." He was an unusual man, effeminate, and full of flattery and praises. Prabhupada remained reserved after his first meeting with Mr. Price, though he was interested in getting the building if the proper arrangement will be made. Brahmananda continued to negotiate Mr. Price, and soon, according to Mr. Price, the owner of the building will be expecting the devotee to give proof of their ability to meet the payment. On proper direction, the devotee hired a lawyer to go over the contract. This, Mr. Price, is causing us so much pain, Prabhupada said. What is the difficulty? He did not see the necessity for Mr. Price at all. Why don't they purchase directly from the owner? Why all these agents? It is just the way it's done here, Brahmananda said. So now time is up. We'll conclude. So we can say Prabhupada was so pakka in material dealing, like even dealing with the Mr. Nair. He was trying to cheat Prabhupada. He really cheated. But Prabhupada got the land and built the temple also. So thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Prabhupada Lilamrit ki, Shri Srimad Sasur Das Goswami Maharaj ki, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, निर्जल एकादशी महामहोत्सव की, हरे कृष्ण. Is Anand Puji can add something?